Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and here we discuss all things with a health spin, no filter, whatever our guests want to say. On today's podcast, we're going to talk about chronic pain. And while that might not sound super exciting, it's actually really important because 20% of U.S. adults suffer from chronic pain. That equates to 51 million people. And 85% of those 51 million actually also suffer from depression. So it's a pretty important topic. And if it doesn't hit you, it probably hits somebody that's really important to you. So stay tuned. We're going to take a quick listen to our sponsors. We're going to be right back with my guest, and we're going to dive into chronic pain.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back to the Positively Altered podcast. My guest today is actually in a career that I couldn't get into. And after we introduce him, I will tell you the story behind that. Welcome, Joe LaVacca.
Oh, Dr. Cindy, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to speaking with you for some time now.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. So real quick, because this is going to be more about you than it is about me, I do want to share with you that when I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I applied to physical therapy school and I got rejected. I couldn't get in. I was so old, and it had nothing to do with my age, but I mean, I'm so old that if you go back in time, the physical therapy area, that's not the right word, right? That career, it was so popular and so competitive, and I'm a horrible student. So I got rejected from your field, Joe.
That's pretty absurd, because if you think about the bar in my field right now, it's not going well in the physical therapy profession, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. But I have a similar story, because in PT school, a lot of people were sitting there and they were like, why am I spending all this money, spending all this time, and I'm going to become a PT? And half my class left to become physicians and physician's assistants. So we saw our class really whittle down over the course of the 4 years that I was there in college at Sacred Heart.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, we're both in great professions, and, it turns out exactly how it's supposed to, I suppose. But, I always laugh thinking, the physical therapist just didn't want me. Totally got rejected.
No, trust me. We need you. We need you, Dr. Cindy. We need you.
It's okay. And we need you too. So, it all works out. All right. I want to dive in. So physical therapist, and I know this is going to sound like a silly question probably to you, but I just want to share with the audience, like, physical therapy, what do we think of, right? Because I think there's a misconception too as to what physical therapists actually really do?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a wonderful question. I think the most traditional definition of physical therapy is that you're trying to solve bodily problems that typically relate to pain through movement and sort of environmental connection or lifestyle modification. I think that what I try to do with people is kind of remove a lot of the pain stuff now. There's so many different things that help people with pain that they don't really need me anymore, at least in my opinion, to get rid of their pain, because there's pills and there's heat and there's ice and there's massage guns and there's tape and there's cupping, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So when people come in to see me now as a physical therapist and they're like, Joe, I have back pain and shoulder pain, and my goal is to make you get rid of it, I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm the best person for that anymore. Now, I can help you understand a little bit more about your experience. I can help you maybe modify your lifestyle, your workouts. I can encourage you to start strength and reconditioning training. And then I can keep reassuring you that you are safe, as my education allows me to. So I think that's where I've kind of really made a big shift in my physical therapy sort of lens is, allowing pain to be there, acknowledging it, but then sort of what can we control now that helps you to your goals? Because I'm pretty sure your pain is going to ebb and flow as it normally does for most of us.
So I think pain is really interesting though, because, and I'll tell you, Joe, just this week, I had a patient that came in and we were talking about his wife who used to come in and see me, and she'd always feel better when she did. And she hasn't been in a really long time. And I was asking, why wouldn't she come back? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, you'd think if you're in a lot of pain, you'd want to do something, right? In order to help. So I think your point is very valid that a lot of us, it isn't just we get hurt, we get out of pain, and we live the rest of our lives for the next 50 years without any sort of challenges, right? A lot of us, when I threw a statistic out in the beginning, right, that 51 million people suffer from chronic pain.
Yeah.
That's a huge population, and we need to educate them better.
Yeah, and it's growing. And I think that's the bigger concern is, yes, there's so many people that are kind of stuck or lost right now, but we have more and more people joining them. Now, I guess the maybe flip side or the happier side of that is that people can now maybe begin to realize they aren't alone in this process. So for the medical profession, I think, we have work to do to try to guide people back to where they want to be. But one of the other big themes with a lot of the patients I treat is that they feel like this doesn't happen to anyone else. And I think that's where all that anger and frustration comes in, like, why me, why me, why me? And I just met a patient this week that was like, I was really stuck with anger because I kept saying, why me with this pain? And it started to fade when I just said, why not me? What did I do to not deserve pain? It's just a normal emotion, right? It's like, well, what do I do to deserve to be hungry every day or tired every day? I don't know. I'm just living. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, that stat's alarming.
That's an interesting perspective because it's almost like saying I expect pain.
To some degree, I don't necessarily say this. I say that pain is a normal human experience. And when you have it, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. But I do think that suffering alone with pain is where it becomes a problem. And that's where I think I start meeting so many people, because when you're suffering, look, me and you, and I'm sure the people listening, we want to do our best to just alleviate that. We want to be the healers. And I think, as I mentioned, what my view of PT was when we opened the show, I don't know if I'm as much of a healer anymore, as much as I am a guide. Like, your body's going to take care of this if we give it the opportunity to succeed. But we have to give it that space. My job is to help you find the best path for you, knowing that we're going to hit dead ends, knowing that there's going to be some trials and tribulations along the way, but this is the path to where you want to be. So just take my hand and come along for the ride,
So I think it's an interesting perspective, right? You threw out, and, a lot of us use modalities, right? And we have the magic answer to reduce or eliminate pain. But as I'm hearing you talk, it really isn't about that, right? It's really about maybe perspective, lifestyle changes, other tools to offset that. So what are some of your favorite tools that you use versus taping and exercise to help people manage or mitigate their discomfort?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that I still want to help them mitigate discomfort. So Yesterday, with someone's homework, I actually encouraged her to dance more. And she had been a dancer. She was in back pain and hip pain, and she got away from it. And I asked her, did giving up something that made you solve your problem? And she was like, no. And I said, of course it didn't, because we're meeting. You're in my office right now. So why take away the one thing that you connected with when we can scale dancing just like we can scale any of your exercises? And I told her, slow dance with your husband, like a little 2-step side to side. Does your husband like that? Oh, he loves to dance. That's how we met. Oh, even better. Because now we can start to maybe talk about relationships. Now, I didn't go into that with her. It was just our first visit. I don't want to get too personal. But, typically down the line after a couple of visits, it's like, hey, well, how's things going at home? And when people implement ideas like that, it's like, well, you know what? Me and my husband went out to dinner and we hadn't done that. And, oh, it was really nice. It feels like we're connecting. We're going on walks now in the evening. And it's like, why did that happen? It's just because I stopped viewing the pain as something that was damaging me. And I just started to view it as something I was experiencing. And there was a lot of ways to shift my perception or my focus. So I really try to relate it a lot of the times to like what people do in their lives. So, if it's more like an accountant or lawyer, like maybe they like to problem solve. I'm like, hey, well, every time you have pain, why don't we try to do Sudoku or a crossword puzzle or something like that? So it's never just about exercise. It's about knowing that person, what makes them tick, and then sort of like putting in this bucket of like, all right, well, everything that makes you, this pain is sort of taking away and you keep sacrificing, yet you're bouncing from person to person and you're still stuck. So can we just start pushing you the other direction? And that's typically where, when people see me, I'm like, okay, we've been going here. I'm going to stop this trend right now. We're just going to do a 180. We're going to start heading back the other way. And people, are a little hesitant about that in the beginning. And it always doesn't go smooth, of course. But more often than not, I found that that's where I found success with a lot of clients over the last few years.
You talk about experiencing, and I talk about that a lot too, experiencing versus owning, right? So when you own the pain, it becomes part of you and it can define you. When you experience it, you walk through it, right? It is an experience. It's just like you go to the zoo, you experience that afternoon at the zoo, you experience the pain. Where do you think people get stuck in their own self-talk or mindset, though, that they can't experience it and they actually start to own it and it defines them?
I really like that experience and ownership, first of all. I think that's really great. I think it's just consistency. I think that we learn as human beings, and we learn from not only, what's happening to us, but we learn what's happening from the people that we trust the most. So if I'm in pain and I go to a provider and they seem just as concerned about pain as I do, that's going to worry me, right? If that doesn't work out with their treatment, then I'm going to go to somebody else. And maybe they're doing the same thing. Well, we got to get you out of pain before you do this, before you do that. And there's almost like this like checklist. Well, you can't go for a walk. Your knee hurts. Oh, you can't squat. Your back hurts. You can't dance. Your foot hurts. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, if that is true, how are we going to keep you exercising? How are we going to keep you moving? How are we going to keep you being you? So I think it becomes an ownership through consistency of input and the consistency of the information that people receive. And I would imagine it's sort of like every other emotion, like hunger. I have so many people that are like, oh, I'm so hungry all the time. I'm so fat. It's like they take this feeling of hunger and then they relate it to who they are. And I'm like, well, it's also just lunchtime. You could just be hungry because it's time to eat lunch. It has nothing to do with how heavy you are, how skinny you are. It's just your body's signaling process. So I do like that experience ownership. I'm going to think about that a little bit more. But I would say for me, it's a learning opportunity for most of us. And the more that we learn and connect that feeling to our identity, then everything else kind of gets washed away.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I would love to even, the word pain has such a negative connotation to it, right? Like there's nothing good about pain, I don't think, in terms of the English language. So I would love for us to even shift away from that word. If my back is giving me trouble, maybe in the morning I could say, the biomechanics of my back are being affected a little bit differently today, rather than saying, oh my gosh, I'm in horrible pain.
Yeah.
Change the language a little bit. Maybe the severity of what we're putting ourselves through would lessen a little bit. I don't know.
what I like about that, Dr. Cindy, is it gives a solution, right? So if I just have pain, that's a very abstract thing. I can't see it. I can't draw it. I can't smell it. I can't hear it. I just feel it. So if it's more like, oh, you know what? I have this pain in the morning and Joe told me it was because, my discs at night, they swell up, right? And they just get consumed with water. So I have to flush out the water like a sponge, to help my back pain. And well, now you get up and you just start moving in weird directions for 10 or 15 minutes. And maybe that's even enough to convince you that, oh, wow, I can move this way and turn this way and turn this way. I don't have to stay in neutral. So the reframing of pain, I think, is so valid for people. But I also think that, to our point before, they have to be ready to receive that. Mm-hmm. So if that is the same person waking up out of bed with a muscle spasm in their back, day one's probably not the time to be like, hey, Joe, do you want to learn a couple of fun facts about pain? And they're writhing in agony at like a 90-degree angle, like that's probably not the time. So then that's where I think a lot of our modalities like come in handy. Hey, let me get therapeutic touch. Let me get heat. Let me get cupping. Let me get whatever I can do to break this cycle for this person, because they're actually suffering from this current experience. It has nothing to do with their job and their sleep and their stress. It's like right now, this is the experience that matters most. So what can we do to break the pattern?
No, I love that. So you couple the physical treatment along with really the mental aspect of changing the language, overcoming the obstacle, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, would you say that the majority of people that walk through your door and walk through life, mm-hmm. it's really more of a mental block than a physical block to overcoming chronic pain?
That's the question, right? And I think that if I had that answer, I probably wouldn't be in Courtney's office right now. I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere, and that would be the background. But, I do think that when we try to so hard separate the mind and body in our profession, and one of the more profound realizations, and I forgot what class or book I was reading, it was so long ago, was just stop. Like we can't separate mind and body. So yes, the mind is this, again, another abstract thing, but it is interconnected with your body. So if your body is feeling a physical limitation, just because I can't see it on an X-ray or an MRI, doesn't mean that we're not going to uncover some magical pain pathway. I don't know, next year, 6 months from now, 20 years from now. And then we're all going to look real silly when it's like, ooh, yikes, we didn't know that was there. And here I was telling people just to breathe in a corner, or, hire a babysitter for their kids and go out more with their husband. And then it's like, well, hold on. There was actually just something that we didn't have the technology to see. So I do think that when I'm meeting people for the first time, hearing their story is so important. And I'm sure that, you can relate with this, listening to some of your clips and hearing you talk today. And I think it's just about giving people like, this is the best chance for success. I'm doing an assessment on you. Hey, your back moves pretty wonderfully. I know it's sensitive. Your hip moves pretty wonderfully. I know it's sensitive. But there was something about your story where you were mentioning this stress at home. Why don't we define that? Because we talked about pain being this like, well, what is the definition of pain? And when we look at the definition, it's really just this perception of threat. And that's what I kind of keep bringing people back to. I'm like, it's threat. It's not damage. And it's just a perception of threat. So it may not even be 100% real. But your stress right now, how do you define that? And then people are like, it's, stress. I'm just really stressed out. Like they use the word to define the word. And when you use the word to define the word, you don't have a solution. So when people realize like, oh yeah, I don't even know what to do about stress. And then I tell them my understanding of stress is when you're one person with so much capability and you have all of these responsibilities and you don't have the resources to accomplish them. Does that sound about right? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, what's the top one? Like, let's run through like a day-to-day thing. Because what I have to realize as a clinician is if someone comes in stressed, and this also happened earlier in the week, I can't give them 2 hours of exercise to do. right? Or mindfulness or meditation, because they already don't have the resources. And then here I am like, oh, great, you're already stressed. We're going to add in this 15-minute mindful meditation. I'd like you to do it in the morning. I know you have 3 kids, and I know you're a single mom, or I know you're a single dad. I know you got to get to work, but if you could wake up at 4:45 instead of 5, oh man, maybe pop in a little journaling. That'd be really good for you. And they look back at me like I got 12 heads. I'm like, do you guys not have Instagram? I mean, that's what every influencer does. Wakes up at 4, walks in the woods, journals, cups of coffee. They live by themselves in some sort of mansion. I don't know where it is, but it looks like a great life. Why don't we just mimic them? So I think, really listening to those people on if there is some of those maybe more mindfulness barriers, it is probably working through what people perceive is the most important. Because I do have a lot of people who don't matter what's happening in their life. I don't sleep well. I smoke. I drink. I hate my job. I'm getting a divorce. But my hip lacks 5 degrees of internal rotation. And I think that's the whole reason why I have agonizing full body pain. Well, I'm like, okay, what have you tried for your 5 degrees of hip internal rotation? We can go down that route. I can give you a couple more stretches, but then would you be willing to try something else?
I love this. You're starting to sound though more like an emotional therapist than a physical therapist.
Sometimes, honestly, Dr. Cindy, I don't stand up sometimes in my assessments, but a lot of these conversations, they just sort of emerge. And when people realize, and this was this woman just most recently, I do like 75-minute evaluations. And we stood up after she was telling me her story and I was just asking her questions. And it was 65 minutes had passed. And she was like, oh my God. And then there was the stress again. You didn't get this chance to look at my hip. I'm like, oh, hold on. This is about 3 things I really need to see from your hip right now because we actually spent so much time talking. I just want to look at this and this and this. That's it. That's all I want to do. And now I can pinpoint exactly what I want to do in these next 10 or 15 minutes together and then give you some advice. And I said to her, you had this pain for 10 years. We were not going to solve it in 75 minutes. I wish, again, we would not be here. We'd be on the yacht. It'd be, I'd port, and I'd open up the door. People would come off. I'd only dock for a few days and then I'd go city to city if I could do that. But that's not the case. So I do feel that these sort of kind of conversations are so important. But they really clarify everything going forward for me and the client after we are actually able to have that conversation. But it doesn't, like, as you can imagine, it doesn't always go well because when I'm trying to get people to open up, they're like, well, are you going to look at my knee? And I'm like, right. Yeah, I'm going to look at your knee, but your knee is not that complicated to look at. Like I can do that in about 5 minutes. There's a lot of other things I think I can help you with or direct you down maybe your right path because I also want to make sure you belong in physical therapy, right?
Right. And watching them walk in and sit down, you can probably have half your assessment over, right? Before
exactly.
you even have a conversation, right?
Exactly.
I always joke, the chiropractor, I watch people walk from behind and I can assess their gait and I, pick apart what's going on with their pelvis, and they're not even a client,
Exactly.
And I already know what's wrong with, with the biomechanics of the gait because it's easy to tell. So, it is fascinating. And I think people, they disassociate so much aspect of health, whether it's emotional, whether it's food, whether it's lifestyle, besides just here's 3 orthopedic tests. And by the way, right to your point, the internal rotation of the hip is off by 5 degrees. And here's your 6 exercises to fix it. Probably YouTube can help them with that at that point.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Access to that. Yeah, for sure. What give me, I'm curious, like, what's your routine throughout the day to keep yourself out of chronic pain and mentally healthy? Do you have sort of this set? I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I do flush my discs out so that there's no congestion in there. What do you do?
Yeah, no, I would say a lot of the things I've learned about just like my own mental health came from when I was in therapy. And that was also when I was going through my divorce probably a decade ago now. And, there was just a lot of realization on, same thing that patients talk about, blaming others, blaming my parents and blaming my ex-wife and then going through that and you realize, wow, I have responsibility in this and I have responsibility in the way that I feel. And then when I started to read a little bit more about, personal well-being, there was just this thought of, hey, you can't control everything you end up feeling, right? But you can control the response after. So if I'm getting a little bit anxious, or if I'm getting a little bit tired, or if I'm getting a little bit worried about something, I just have to learn really to just kind of slow down and just take one single breath and just put some space between my next step. Because I can take something and launch it across the room, or I can just come back to what I'm doing. Maybe I go for a walk, and then everything becomes a little bit more clear. I still have the same problems. I still feel the same way, but now I just have a much better solution than reacting in the moment. So my life now is so compartmentalized that and as you know, me and Courtney do long distance, right? And for people not listening, my fiance is Dr. Courtney Conley. I live in New York and she lives in Colorado. So I wake up at 5:40, and I try to wake up pretty close to that every day, even when I'm out here, to keep at least some bit of a schedule, because I've realized that was very important. So my sleep schedule is pretty consistent. But then I have this routine of like, I know what train I get. I know what train I get home. I always now make time for me to work out in the middle of each day. So that has been very important. So on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, I make sure I strength train for at least an hour. On Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, that's either going to be a walk with my daughter, a run by myself, maybe a hike with Courtney. But like, that's really how I've been maintaining it. And from a diet standpoint, I would say if we did like a pie graph, 99% of my diet is protein powder, and 1% is actually probably cooked meals. Just because, again, like I'm trying to buy into this whole idea of like, you really need to build lean muscle mass in your 30s and 40s and 50s. So I'm like, all right, let's put the deposits in now. Yes, I am probably 99% powder. Like if there's a windstorm here in Denver, I might actually blow away later. But that's, I think having routine and picking the life you want, that's ultimately what I think gives me health. It's flexibility. So I started my own company to be able to travel back and forth and be with my fiance as much as possible. I started my own company to be able to pick up my daughter from school every other week. So those things to me were, kind of like a non-negotiable. And then I was just going to work as hard as I could with those goals in mind. So, hey, why do I work out every day? Well, hey, I got a daughter, and supposedly exercise lets you live 5 years longer. And I want to be here for as long as I can with her. Hey, why'd you start your own company? Well, because what boss is going to give me off Thursdays and Fridays so I can fly and see my fiance? So I had to work pretty hard at that. So I think it's really about knowing what goals you want and then building that plan to get there and then sticking to it. Look, I fall off. There was a 40th birthday party that I was a part of a couple weeks ago, and I didn't wake up feeling too great the next morning, and it took me, approaching 40. It takes a couple more days to recover from nights out like that. But I always know that I'm going to get back on the wagon. So,
well, I've got quite a few years on you, Joe, and the parties are just as fun. They just end at 8:30 p.m. and start at 5 in the morning,
which sounds wonderful.
Yeah, the after midnight stuff as you age is definitely harder, but you still can have a good time. It's just in a different hour of the day. That's all. That's all. It becomes just, everybody says it. They're like, well, getting older sucks. No, I don't think it sucks. It just changes.
Oh yeah, I've loved it. I like the idea of having a beer in my hand while the sun is out. And then, going home and watching my favorite show and falling asleep at a reasonable time. Like that's what I always read that, and I would laugh. I'd be like, that's not going to be me. Like I'm going to be out with my friends. And then the minute it happened, like the first time, I was like, what have I been doing? Like I could still have just as much fun and like see the sunlight and then go to bed at 10 o'clock. Like,
Right.
There's a saying, it's like nothing good happens after 12 anyway. And I think I could relate to almost every bad experience in college of after 12 a.m. That's where all the bad stuff happens.
No, but we have to live through it to experience it, to be able to say it when we're older to our kids who won't believe us until they get to the same point as us, right?
Yeah.
We just keep passing down really good advice as parents and nobody ever takes it.
I realize that now. And there was I think it was one of my mentors, because he was trying to give me some advice one day, and I was just like, yeah, I know. It was about school and stuff, and he was like, Joe, that book, Been There, Done That? I wrote it. So just pay attention to me. Because he was actually trying to convince me to go to nursing school.
Okay.
And he was like, look, you're male. A lot of the nursing population is not that it would be like, oh, hey, like you can go out on all these dates. He was like, but as a male nurse, you can do more things. Like you can lift heavier patients and you don't have to take leave and you don't have to do this and you don't have to do that. He's like, it gives you so much more flexibility. And I was like, nah, I'm good. And I don't regret becoming a PT, but I totally see what he means though about having flexibility in the schedule, which is what I've built now. So it is like these 12-hour shifts. I do feel like I'm kind of almost like on a nursing, program. I do 7:30 a.m. to 8 on Monday and Tuesday in the city, and then 7:30 to 12:30 on Wednesdays. And then I either go get my daughter or I fly out to Colorado. And then sort of like do it all over again on Thursday, Friday, and whatever. So I am always like cramming in these 3-day shifts. So I'm like, maybe deep down in my subconscious, I remembered what he was saying about flexibility at nursing. And I just started to do these 12-hour shifts for no reason, just to torture myself.
No, it's not torture. You carve out your path, for what works for you, right? You don't follow the rules, but and I always, the joke about me is I never follow the rules because I don't know who made them up and why they have to exist anyway, right? And I obey the law. I mean, those rules I follow, but life rules, I make them up as I go. Before we take a quick commercial break and come back for a fun part of the podcast that I don't think I even shared with you, I want to hit on one thing because it really struck me. I love that you have this beautiful relationship. And, your fiance has been a guest on the show and I've known Courtney for a long time and I love her. She's great. I think it's amazing what the two of you are actually doing. And, I've had somebody very special in my life for a long time and we don't live together and we have no plans to live together and we're not getting married and, both of us divorced as well. And I think there's a lot of people out there who really feel like we're all crazy, right? Like, how do you, maybe it's not a good relationship or how doesn't it work? And I would love if you just spend a minute or two and why that's so important to you. Because I think you and I actually are doing something really cool that could work really great for a lot of people if they would just open their eyes to know that, again, you don't have to do what the expected norm is in a relationship.
Yeah. And me and Courtney talk about this all the time. And I think it's learning through mistakes. You kind of go into your life with these rules in mind. I get married at 25. I have 2.5 kids. I get a dog. I buy a house. I put up a white picket fence. And that's where I live until I retire. And then, la, la, la. I think that when I realized that the relationship I was in was it almost seemed like more of a business partnership. Right. And we were a great team in that regard, but that's not what that was fulfilling to me, and that's not how I had defined relationships, but I didn't know that until I was in it, because I just assumed like, all right, well, when you get married to someone, you have your whole life to solve problems. And it's like, or you can have problems for your whole life. Right. So how do you want to view that side of the coin? And look, obviously divorce is painful. I don't recommend it. But I also don't think it's necessarily anything to be super scary about because things will work out and you'll end up being exactly where you want to be. And because of our relationship, what's nice about what Courtney and I are able to do is that the same way I compartmentalize my schedule is like we can almost compartmentalize our lives. So when I'm here or she's in New York, well, hey, like we're the only thing that matters for those 3 or 4 days. And we connect and we spend our time together and we have meaningful conversations and, we go on these hikes and we go on these walks and we work out together and then we come to work together. Right. And it's really nice when you don't have that. But then at the same time, when we're apart, it allows us to give ourselves to our daughters. It allows us to give ourselves to our business without the sort of pressure of me waiting for her at home being like, why are you late again? Why am I eating alone again? And look, I think it's all about realizing that you never solve your problems in life. You just exchange them for the ones that you can control or tolerate. And, being in distance and you get it, like there's just different problems than when you were married. But I do think it's this wonderful situation when you just erase the rules that you have this preconceived notion of and just say, hey, you know what? If relationships are about giving yourself to the other person and working together to build the life you want, well, I mean, wow, what a great example of her working over here to try to build this life we want. And I'm building this life that we want over here. And then hopefully in the, over the next 10, 20 years, like we are able to establish this bridge and wherever we end up, we end up. But is really nice to have that time for you, and then to give that time for other people, and then to almost kind of like constantly be able to prioritize your life given where you are or who you're with. So I think it keeps you in the moment.
I love this. So it sounds like every aspect of your life comes back to, let's throw out the rules, let's redefine, let's find a new opportunity. So whether it's in your personal relationship or helping patients with chronic pain, maybe there's a different way, right? And the way we've been doing it all along probably isn't going to work for everybody anymore. And I love that you bring a new, fresh perspective to the whole concept of how we address a patient in chronic pain, experiencing chronic pain, in a way through your form of physical therapy that might just be a little bit different than what everybody's used to. So Joe, thank you for sharing that. We're going to take you are welcome. We are going to take a really quick commercial break because my sponsors are super important to me. And then we're going to be back. We're going to have some fun, Joe. I'm going to throw some rapid fire questions that you have no idea what they are. And we're just going to see what your answers are. You up for that?
I'm up for that. You mean more fun? I've already been having fun.
All right. Well, we'll just continue the fun. That's what we do here on the Positively Altered podcast. Sit tight, everybody. We will be right back with Joe LaVacca. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back. We have Joe LaVacca with us today, physical therapist and amazing person extraordinaire. I just made up a new title for you, Joe. We're going to do some.
I like it.
You like that?
I do. If you could share it with Courtney, that'd be even better.
You know what? I will send her a text as soon as we're done. Put it on the business card, because then it's real. As long as it's in print, you can have it.
Exactly.
I'm the queen of something. That's my title every day. So, you can have extraordinaire. It wasn't taken. All right. I'm going to throw some questions at you. You ready?
I'm ready. Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you're in Colorado and the snow is white, if you could change it to any other color but white, what color would you pick?
Purple.
Purple. Why purple?
Well, all right. If you want to know the truth,
I do.
It was, yellow is my logo, but yellow snow, probably not a good combination. Red is my favorite color, but then I was like, I don't know if red snow, would that give us the connotation of like blood out there? Because then I'm thinking about all these movies I've seen of like, people lying dead in the snow. And I'm like, well, no, that's not going to be good. And then I'm like, well, blue would be too dark. Green would just look like the grass. So what would I like to see that's different? Purple came to mind.
Joe, how did you go through that entire thought process that fast to come up with your answer?
Well, the yellow was my go-to, right? Because I'm always like, promote your brand. And I'm like, well, hold on, yellow snow. I stopped myself dead in the tracks. I'm like, just go with your favorite color. Red snow. I'm like, oh no, that's not going to be good either. And then I don't know, for some reason I just like kind of came up with purple. And then I think the green stuff came as I was explaining my decision on purple.
So sometimes I ask the question, what color would you change the ocean depending on where you live? So we could make the ocean yellow because
that's fine. Yeah, I guess.
It's not quite the same connotation as yellow snow. Yeah, I hear you. Were you the kid that would, carve your name in the snow?
Oh, of course. And I'd fall in it. I'd make a million angels. And then, I would like face flop and back flop. And yeah, I would try to jump off the highest thing into the deepest snow pile. Absolutely. Love that.
All right. Well, purple it is. If you could domesticate any animal on the planet, make it your pet, what animal would you pick?
Ooh, I would probably say, let's go with the first thing that came to mind was an elephant. So I'm going to say elephant.
Elephant. I hope you have a big house, Joe.
Well, that'll be the goal. Maybe that's also the other thing. Like I have to have this big house and
a big bathroom. You need a big toilet for a big elephant. Yeah, or a big yard or something. Because when you said elephant, the first thing I could think about was the size of the poop that elephant would.
Oh yeah. Well, I imagine at this point, if I could ever afford an elephant, like everything else in my life would have already been taken care of. And I just pictured myself walking around my neighborhood, like commuting on an elephant, like waving to people. That's what really was fun in my mind. It wasn't like necessarily like cuddling up next to the elephant. It was, hey, Corey, I'm going to go to the store. You need anything? And then hopping on the elephant and then riding around like a king in the neighborhood.
Oh my God, I have this picture now of like these saddlebags on the side with your groceries in there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, walking down the neighborhood. Oh my gosh, I think it's probably a good thing I live in a different state. All right, we're good there. All right, I'm not sure you're going to have a great answer for this, being that you're a protein powder kind of guy. But what food would you pick to be a breakfast food that is not considered a breakfast food?
Oh, I mean, that's easy. It's pizza. I mean, I just want to eat pizza all the time. Pizza's my favorite thing. If I can have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I would. Maybe it's like breakfast pizza, and then lunch you put chicken on it, and then at night you put steak and vegetables on it or something. But I am a big pizza fan.
Pizza. Do you put protein powder on the pizza?
No, I haven't tried that yet. But I would imagine it would be a little bit more of this idea of you have to put the protein powder in the dough and then make the dough, and then you put your toppings on top. So that might be, so this is just a quick aside. I always said that if I really had my own brick and mortar in the city, because I just rent a space in New York City, but if I had my own brick and mortar, it'd be called Slice of Life, where, in a world full of pain, at least there's pizza. So even when you come in and you don't feel great, I give you a piece of pizza to leave, right? So maybe this protein pizza, right? Because I'm always talking to people about trying to get more protein. I'm like, look, I can't really do anything about your pain. We're going to do a couple exercises. I'm going to try to make you feel better. But at the end of the day, you're going to get a slice of protein pizza. It's got 50 grams of protein in it, and we can maybe that's how I make it.
Joe, see, now all I can envision is like, I need a protein pizza that's dairy-free and gluten-free, because if I eat your glutinous pizza, I'm going to have more pain in the morning.
Well, we'd have two. We'd have two. I think there's a lot of places in the city now that do gluten-free pizza.
All right, so I'm all for the protein, but it's got to be gluten-free, dairy-free. All right, when I come to New York, and I love New York City, so when I show up, that's what I'm.
Yeah, hey, look, well, if you show up, I'll start doing some research, and we'll go visit the best gluten-free pizza in town.
Deal. All right, deal. All right, this isn't really a rapid fire question, but I do think it's important, and we didn't hit on it earlier. What's your favorite protein powder then? Because I get this question all the time, right? Like there's so much junk. Actually, even just on Facebook this morning, somebody's like, okay, I need a protein powder without any artificial sweeteners and no stevia, no agave. And is there a unicorn out there? Like, what's your favorite?
I know. So I know this is not the cool right answer right now. I just go by taste. And having gone through so many of them, the one to me that tastes the best is Optimum Nutrition. Okay. And they do come up a lot on like, what are the best protein powders? So that's a personal thing, right? Like I know people are going to probably read the ingredient list on Optimum Nutrition and then email me and be like, oh my God, you're poisoning yourself. Stop. Cause I'm just going to see like, well, then you know what? Like Nature's Way has to find a way to make it taste good. And then I'll be all on Nature's Way protein, starting tomorrow. But what I typically tell people to look for are things that are just third-party tested, things that have a QR code on them. And I think you just want to make sure that you're getting what you're getting in every bottle or any supplement that you buy. So look for things that are third-party tested. I think that's probably the most important advice I give to people. But then my personal choice, do as I say, not as I do, is like, well, what's going to taste the best?
Well, that's fair, because if it sits on the counter, it doesn't do you any good anyway.
Correct. Right? Then I can't build lean muscle if it's just sitting there and I don't eat it.
Right. No, I think that's fair. Joe, last question.
I'm ready.
What was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Honestly, I mean, meeting you. I'd heard a lot about you. Courtney had spoken very highly of you. And I like when I talk to people and they teach me things, and that whole like experience and ownership thing. I love that. So yeah, to me, I think it was just getting a chance to meet you and have a new thing to reframe when I'm thinking about people's emotions and pain. So thank you very much.
Oh my gosh. No, it's been great to have you here. How does everybody find you? Where do they follow you, check you out, come see you in New York City? Share with everybody.
Yeah. So I guess in New York City, I am on 20th and 5th. So we're right in the heart of the Flatiron District. So if you are there, it's easily accessible from pretty much every point, including New Jersey and Brooklyn. So definitely check us out there. If you want to learn a little bit more about the practice myself, we do offer virtual consultations. The easiest way to do that would probably be to check out our website, strengthinmotionpt.com. And for those of you on social media, it's just at strengthinmotion_PT. We're pretty active there. We try to post at least once or twice a day, do the whole thing. But I would say that's the easiest way to contact me. And I'm pretty much an open book. So you'll find my email address on the website. I think my cell phone number's up there somewhere too. I try to make it as easily accessible for people to find us.
That's so great. Joe LaVacca, it's been an absolute pleasure. You got to say that correctly, right?
Thank you.
Retraining in order to say those words. For everybody out there, I am Dr. Cindy, and if you want to learn a little bit more about what we're doing in my community, please check us out at drcindyspeaks.com or send us an email at hello@drcindyspeaks. Please make sure you pick up my book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness, at the bottom of a chemo bag. I know I'm going to start to follow Joe. Please join me and follow Joe LaVacca. My favorite thing about doing the podcast today, Joe, besides meeting you, because that is always fun to meet new guests, is I just love the different, fresh perspective. We think about something like physical therapy in one way, and you gave me and everybody out there listening a whole different way to view our health through physical therapy. So thank you so much. I hope you and all of the listeners out there have become positively altered.